Imagine a plane going from Los Angeles to New York. The pilot enters all the correct information into the plane's computer and it is heading in the right direction. But imagine soon after that the pilot accidentally changes the flight path slightly, let's say by 3 degrees. No one notices this, not the pilot nor the passengers, but over the course of the journey this slight change in direction is significant and they would actually end up in Washington DC rather than New York. This is the ascension of atomic changes and by extension atomic habits. We do not notice changes in our lives, but over time they can prove to be monumental. Keep listening and you'll find out how atomic changes and atomic habits can improve your life drastically. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dr Aziz. I'm a psychology graduate of Cambridge University and also a medical doctor. In this video I'll be covering Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a fascinating read in just over 300 pages, but as always, don't worry, you don't have to read it because I've done the hard work for you and we'll be presenting all the key points in the next 7 minutes or so. Small but consistent changes can make profound differences to your life. If you are out of shape today and go for a 20-minute jog, you will still be out of shape tomorrow. If you eat a large pizza tonight, it won't make you overweight by tomorrow. But if we repeat these behaviors day after day, whether that's running every day or eating pizza every day, after some time you will see considerable changes. So how do we develop good habits? What in fact is a habit? Habits are automated behaviors that we have learned from experience. When you walk into a dark room, you don't think about what to do next. You instinctively reach for the light switch. Just like brushing your teeth or driving your car, these are behaviors repeated so many times that they now take place automatically. But how are habits formed? In the 19th century, a psychologist called Dr. Edward Thorndike created a series of experiments by placing cats in mazes. Although initially frantic and anxious, eventually the cats found out how to escape very efficiently. What Dr. Thorndike found from this was that behaviors that give satisfying consequences, in this case gaining freedom, tend to be repeated until they become automatic. Fast forward many decades and we now know that there are 4 distinct elements to any habit formation. Cue, or a trigger to act. Walking into a dark room triggers the action to allow you to see. Craving, for a change of state, in this case from darkness to light. Response or action, turning the light switch on. Reward, the final step, the end goal of every habit is reward. In this case, the relief that you can see your surroundings. Whether we realize it or not, every habit adheres to the same structure: cue, craving, response, and reward. Now that we know how habits are structured, let's find out how you can develop good habits that can change your life for the better. We often have good intentions about wanting to develop good or new habits, but these intentions are often vague. What the author suggests is something called implementation intentions. So instead of saying I need to learn to play my guitar, you say on Monday, Wednesday and Friday when the alarm goes off, the first thing I will do is pick up my guitar and practice for an hour. Now leave your guitar in the middle of the room because environment matters. Keep healthier food in sight and junk food out of sight, and again you'll get closer to your goals, atomic inch by atomic inch. In the 1950s, 2 neuroscientists, James Olds and Peter Milner, conducted some experiments where they blocked off dopamine pathways in the brains of rats. The results were pretty startling. The rats simply lost the will to live. They had no desire to eat, drink, reproduce or anything else. In a few days they all died of dehydration. Dopamine serves as a powerful motivator. Whenever we do something beneficial for our survival, eating, drinking, having sex, dopamine is released and we feel good. This pleasurable feeling motivates us to do the beneficial action again and again. So how can we use this knowledge to our benefit? Simple. Whenever you have something you know you should do but find it tedious, intertwine it with something pleasurable. The author gives the example of a man who found it difficult to motivate himself to exercise but then somehow managed to hack his exercise bike so that he could watch Netflix on it whilst he exercised. Again, we don't have to do something so complex, but even something as basic as promising yourself a specific reward after completing a certain task or exercise routine is sufficient. James Clear, the author, then talks about friction. What does he mean by this? Simply to make a task either easier or more difficult. If you want to do something beneficial, make it easier for yourself. Remember the example given earlier? Put your guitar in the middle of the room. You will inevitably find yourself playing it more. But you can use friction against bad habits too. For example, if you want to waste less time in front of the TV, unplug it and take the batteries out of the remote. James Clear then mentions something called the 2-minute rule. This is a way of making any activity feel manageable. It basically says that any habit is doable within 2 minutes or 2 units of an activity. For example, if you want to read more, don't commit to reading 1 book every week. Instead, make a habit of reading just 2 pages every night. Once you've read 2 pages, you'll probably end up reading more. If you want to run a marathon, commit to simply putting on your running gear every day after work and you'll end up running. Just get started. This is one of the keys to combating procrastination. A key principle laid out in Atomic Habits is that of making habits satisfying. James Clear tells us a story of a public health researcher by the name of Dr. Stephen Luby, who worked in Karachi, Pakistan in the 20th century. Infection rates were high in this neighborhood. Dr. Luby knew hand washing and sanitation would make a big difference. The locals understood this too, but they just weren't turning their knowledge into a habit with the bland soaps available. Everything changed overnight when Dr. Luby worked with Procter & Gamble to introduce a delightful smelling lather-producing soap that suddenly everyone loved to use. Everyone began washing their hands because they now found it satisfying. Diarrhea rates, pneumonia rates, and skin infections all plummeted. Making good behavior satisfying can be difficult. Our brains have not evolved enough to think long-term. We are still programmed for short-term immediate gratification. We know that smoking can cause lung cancer 20 years down the line, but many of us still do it because it is satisfying for the here and now. What this means is when pursuing habits with delayed rewards, we should try and attach some immediate gratification to them. An example given is that of a couple who wants to eat healthier at home rather than multiple unhealthy meals at restaurants. Every time they refrain from going out, they transfer $50 to their trip to Europe fund, so there is some immediate gratification now associated with their long-term aims of eating healthier. Maintaining your habits is as important as starting them. As humans, we all falter at some point. Two methods outlined that can help keep you on track with your habits. Number 1, habit tracking, essentially keeping a diary of your habits. Number 2, habit contract, whereby you make an agreement with someone or an app or website that if you do or don't stick to a habit goal, you will have to give something as a consequence. Whether that is a donation or an extra task, this serves as a motivator to keep you on track. The final point touched upon is something called habit stacking, where you stack a new habit to an existing one. If you want to meditate every morning, do so straight after you brush your teeth, an existing habit, and soon both will become habits. In summary, a tiny change in your behavior will not transform your life overnight, but turn that behavior into a habit that you perform every day, and it can and will lead to big changes in your life. A couple of thoughts from myself. When it comes to motivation and discipline, there are actually different schools of thought when it comes to motivation. I personally actually prefer the more hardcore definition by Brian Tracy of not relying on motivation, that you develop and implement the definition of self-discipline, which is doing what you know you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. I have done a 7-minute summary of this life-changing book, The Power of Self-Discipline by Brian Tracy, and I'll link that here to the right. I would highly recommend you watch this. Anyway, I hope you learned something useful and enjoyed this summary. If you want to keep learning about psychology, medicine, or life hacks, hit the like, subscribe, or notifications button. Any suggestions or comments, feel free to post down below. Until next time, stay safe.